Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Got a fun show with stuff lined up, another sack of goodies. This Halloween season to talk about. I don't have a question for tonight, though. Forgot to do that.
Then my question is why?
I just forgot to come up with one. We can try to come up with one. I don't know.
What is the difference between an orange?
So joining me on the show as usual, sitting in my co-pilot seat, none other than the great wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric D. Smith. How are you tonight, Mr. Smith?
Very lucid.
Very lucid. That means like awake and present and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, unless you're dreaming.
And joining us in the engineering booth, the AI named Mr. Devlin. How are you tonight there, Mr. Devlin?
I'm doing good. How are you? Oh, sorry.
There's some speculation as to whether Devlin is actually a human being or is just an AI like thing that we've created, or somehow the Illuminati bought for us or whatever. Are you real or not, Devlin? Have we figured that out? Processing.
You're gonna have to fix that program.
What was the question?
I said, are you real or are you AI, or have we figured that out yet?
Yes.
Okay, well, vague it is. So got some show includes to talk about. Mr. Devlin will bring those up for us. Thank you, AI Devlin. I appreciate that. Big Hosa is back and commenting. I just love that freaking username. So I want him or her. Did we determine that? I can't remember, to tell us where that name comes from. I would like to know the derivation.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea.
So we already did that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We already talked about whether Devlin's an AI or not. We haven't figured that out. It's very mysterious. People think he's very mysterious, right? Because he's never in front of the camera, so nobody sees him. They've seen his like disembodied arm.
Yes, it's good that we have a little bit of mystique, though.
There is an episode that I went to go, the one with the May.
That's right. You brought your cell phone over.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. He was. So
or
if you
was that May?
It was, or was it? It could be. See, that's the hologram projection of him. That's what it actually is.
You need to go back through the back catalog and with a fine-tooth comb and watch everything.
All right, Mr. Devlin, can you bring up the first article from the bag of goodies? Oh, we're going to talk about What's His Nuts.
What's His Nuts?
So, What's His Nuts won't recut Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for China. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter. So we had talked about the stuff that's going on like in China with Overwatch a couple episodes back.
Yeah, and the NBA.
And then, yeah, man, that's what I was going to say. Now it seems to be like steamrolling. There's all these different organizations that are involved in this now that have strong financial ties. Yeah. And
in South Park.
And I didn't know this, but that I just learned this too, that they actually recut movies for Chinese audiences. Like major motion picture releases in the United States have different endings in China. So I was like, wow, man, that's kind of interesting. Like I didn't realize, but so apparently What's His Nuts has no intention of recutting his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to appease Chinese censors or China's censors. A source close to the situation tells the Hollywood Reporter that the auteur is taking a take it or leave it stance in the wake of Chinese regulators pulling the film from the schedule a week before its October 25th release in the country.
And they are chopping down on that. You guys have a good time. They are, man. Like, no basketball, no Tarantino movies, which a lot of people like.
Can't say the wrong thing playing a video game.
Right.
It's like
the no video games. It's like the people that live there are like, wait, we didn't do this.
Right. Why are we? What the hell?
We'll give you money if we can watch the show.
Says the Hollywood Reporter reported Friday that the release of the acclaimed pic starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt has been put on hold indefinitely. No explanation was given to Sony Pictures Entertainment, the studio behind the film, as to why Sony declined to comment. I thought we already figured out why. Because he won't recut. Oh, why it was pulled originally.
Oh, like what happened that they want taken out.
There's some content in it, apparently, that they're not happy with
something
somehow.
That we would just take for granted, I would imagine.
But, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have to be that. Like, it doesn't have to be. It could just be that an authoritarian type state can pretty much interject themselves into anything, and if they can mandate that they somehow get interjected into a major blockbuster, whether it's offended any censorship or not, I don't know that that's even necessary.
Yeah, it may not be. No.
So anyway, that's that. Let's go on to the next one there, Mr. Devlin. This is from Gizmodo. So we were just talking about the stuff with what's his nuts, right? Apple and Blizzard slammed over China censorship by top U.S. lawmakers. So now there's fucking politicians getting involved. Well, not that there wasn't. This whole thing's political.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers on Friday co-signed letters sent to the chief executives of Apple and Blizzard expressing deep concern over recent decisions by the American companies that have negatively impacted overseas app users and gamers, quote, at the behest of the Chinese government. Anyway, not that that hasn't happened in the free US of A either.
Yeah.
That they've dipped their toes into things like encryption and all kinds of stuff.
Like you said, it's politics, right? There's the pending trade embargo that's going to be going on. That's going to affect games and game pieces, game boards, and that sort of thing too. And I guess it was supposed to start
now's the time to spec and build a hot PC if you're going to do it anytime soon, right? Because the prices may skyrocket here.
Well, and I mean like tabletop games too.
Okay.
Yeah, they're talking about taxing that and banning it and things like that. And so
in China, okay,
in China, that would be something that would be taxed like dramatically, apparently. And so Hasbro paid the cost to get this stuff uploaded and started to ship over, from what I just heard on the radio. And then they delayed the embargo by a few months to get past the Christmas season. And they'd already paid to have it like shipped at pretty great expense.
Pre-shipped, like up the production and hurry up and get it here before all hell breaks loose kind of thing.
Well, I guess also, too, some of that at cost was defrayed to smaller businesses. But they were saying, look, we're just not going to order anything, unless we can order it from you, because we can't pay these extra prices.
Right.
So they were spending the money to ship it over to sell it directly, because that's the only way these people are going to buy it. That was my understanding of it, but I was listening to this as I came in. But there's so much involved with it. There's so many things. There's tabletop games, there's video games, there's sports games, and entertainment.
Well, this is kind of the net effect of what I understood. This whole reason for taking economies and linking them so much together was to try to keep the countries from being assholes to each other, because their economies are linked together. So it was supposed to sort of, I think the theory, as I heard it, was to foster more diplomacy and better relations. But, here we are. The letter to Apple CEO Tim Cook was written to express, already read that. Did I read that already, Devlin? Maybe I did. Hong Kong's authorities have aggressively moved against these protesters with the support of Chinese government. The lawmakers' letter states, in the face of this brutal repression, tools like HK Map let peaceful demonstrators share locations to avoid and to help to keep peaceful protesters out of harm's way. That's another, like, they're shutting down apps that they're sort of using to communicate with each other with. The lawmakers said that Apple has censored some 2,200 apps in China, including those made by and for oppressed ethnic minorities, including the Uyghur and Tibetan communities. That's why it's like, I really don't want to screw this up. Citing figures compiled by the nonprofit organization Great Fire. I have no clue who that is. So, not ending anytime soon, it looks like, and just continuing to get worse. I think we've made our point here, Mr. Devlin. We can move on. That's 2 articles in a row.
Things suck.
So I thought this was fun. This is like a tech thing. Speaking of,
I like that it starts off with whoops.
Yeah, this is from Futurism.
It's a tech thing. Whoops.
So Samsung admits anyone's thumbprint can unlock its new phone.
I heard about that. Whoops.
So it's
not really
a
reader,
security feature that prevents animals from accessing your phone, basically. Maybe I wonder if a chimpanzee's fingerprint would work. Anyway.
I hate it when my dog runs up my phone bill. I mean.
That's like that. Have you ever seen that texts from dog stuff where the dog and his owner they have these text messages back, conversations, and the dog's like, sends like all kinds of crazy shit about ripping the curtains off the wall and all kinds. And I heard something,
I just found out my aunt texts her sweeper robot.
Oh, here we go. That one's going to bring one up. So dog, this is between dog and owner. So dog says, still hungry. The owner says, you had breakfast. Want more breakfast? He says, you'll get fat. What's fat? It's what happens when you eat too much food. Fat sounds awesome. Let's get fat. It's the dog, But so I don't know if you've never seen. Some of them are hilarious. That one was okay, but some of them are downright. So you can look it up. It was like a YouTube, Facebook thing that went around for a while. Just like remember when all the damn you autocorrect pictures? Did you ever see those come?
I don't. It's that whole humor thing. I don't typically read those.
You're just not into it.
Just not into it. Don't find it funny that much.
So we're driving Devlin nuts here. He's like, I'm looking up funny stuff, man.
I'm not saying I don't. There's something that things probably are. I don't know. Maybe I just don't read it. I don't know.
You make me laugh. Tech giant Samsung has admitted to the BBC that a flaw with its flagship Galaxy S10 smartphone means that any thumbprint can unlock it. A flabbergasting security misstep for a leading iPhone competitor.
Not so smart now, are you?
The company also confirmed to CNBC that it's aware of the case of S10's malfunctioning fingerprint recognition and will soon issue a software patch. It's a software glitch.
My God.
The vulnerability was first reported by The Sun, which learned of it from a British woman who noticed that both her thumbs unlocked her Galaxy S10, even though she'd only configured it to recognize her right one. When she noticed that both thumbs worked, she enlisted her husband to unlock the phone and then raised the alarm when she realized how serious the problem was.
Man, yeah. Yep, that's not going to be good for them.
That's one of them things. It's like, how do I want to say this? Like everybody thought it just worked, so it did. So, it deterred people because they went, oh, it's got a thumbprint reader on it. But anybody that tried was like, oh, shit, that's kind of bizarre. I'm not telling anybody, so it's amazing that she did.
The phone sat until it discharged before anyone thought to even try.
I'm willing to bet that there's a jealous spouse, significant other out there that figured this out way before this chick did.
And wasn't going to tell
didn't
anybody.
Say a word. It was like, I'm not saying a word to anybody about this.
No idea what you're talking about.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Who's Bob?
Right. Yeah, so I went on. An added bit of irony pointed out by the BBC when Samsung's launched the Galaxy S10 earlier this year. It called the device's fingerprint authentication system revolutionary. Yes, revolutionary in the sense that it does not work.
Yeah, it's going to turn the tide.
Charge people a lot of money for it.
Yeah, jeez. And people put some pretty personal stuff on their phone.
Sometimes. That's how they end up on the internet.
Right.
Zuckerberg, this comes from The Guardian. Zuckerberg, quote, I'll go to the mat and fight Warren over plan to break up Facebook. So have you heard about this? Like they're talking about busting Facebook up like a monopoly.
Like they did Microsoft?
Yeah, and like the oil companies, like mobile and stuff like that back in the day. Yeah. Facebook chief executive Mark Zuckerberg has said his company will go to the mat if Elizabeth Warren is elected president and seeks to fulfill her promise to break up America's tech giants. Having to mount a legal challenge, Zuckerberg said, would suck for us. In response, the Massachusetts senator said, quote, what would really suck is if we don't fix a corrupt system. In leaked transcripts of July internal meetings published by The Verge on Tuesday, Zuckerberg identifies, quote, a political movement where people are angry at the tech companies and are worried about concentration or worried about different issues and worried that they're not being handled well. Well, I think we can say demonstrably they're not.
It would seem so.
This is like a weird sort of, this guy's got like some weird disconnect. I mean, because like because when he's talking to Congress and shit, whatever, I get that. That was all very, let me check it with my lawyer kind of thing. But this is like an internal thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting to think that he doesn't think there's anything wrong. Like he doesn't get it. that this is an issue.
Well,
he just doesn't even think it's an issue.
It's weird because a lot of times capitalism encourages you to build this big monetary empire, right? But then there's been a few people who've really succeeded well at doing that. And once you get to a certain height, the government will take you down. Like, it's capitalism up to a point.
Yes, it is.
And then it's like, no, you can't go past that point. And I think these people that have had so much success, like this guy and Bill Gates and stuff, they don't get it. There is a disconnect. You know, they poured everything into this thing because it was working out really well. I mean, imagine if this podcast got huge like Facebook did, right? And you would be putting everything into it, man, because it'd be a miracle. Right. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Anybody
know what you're saying.
For anything that anybody invents, man. You know, I mean, that'd be that well known in every household, right?
Hallelujah. Praise the baby Jesus.
But, you know, I mean, you know, and then if somebody stepped in and said, "Oh, you've got to divide this all up and give it to these other people," you'd be probably a bit miffed about it, and probably wouldn't understand why you're being made to do it when that's all you were encouraged by society.
We collectively, and society has a way bigger problem if the No Shit Cast is somehow leveraged to a point where its demise could cripple the U.S. economy. Okay, that's when you bust shit up. Okay,
stranger things have happened, but maybe I don't know.
We get care packages of tuna fish and shit, not
not disrupting China's economy,
not economy disrupting amounts of money of any kind. Zuckerberg adds, quote, "That doesn't mean that even if there's anger that you have someone like Elizabeth Warren who thinks that the right answer is to break up the companies." Okay, so the difference here is that what I think Congress is getting prickly about is the amount of power and influence that that the social media networks have, and they don't like competition.
No.
Okay.
Well, their president's using these
mediums.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
well, it's kind of a weird thing for him to be so I mean, well, I shouldn't
isn't
say
that to the
that's
point
weird,
of what
but
they're saying is that if it's so big that the government's using it, and that's too big, it's bigger than the government.
It's too powerful.
Yeah, we need our own channel that you listen to.
We've talked about this quite a bit too. That how, they're not regulated like a media network or media company is regulated. They're not regulated like the major news networks and stuff are regulated with what they can and can't have for content and
radio. No FCC,
none of that. Right? Like us, yeah. We're subscriber based, right? Pretty much. So. If you don't like us, we don't even have to exist to you. Yeah. But for him to be recorded making such a very politically sort of issued political sort of stance on something, sort of, I think is the door that opens up that they should be regulated like telecom.
Well, they probably should be given the size and the power. Right. I mean, it is a household thing, man. It's the same complaint they had.
All of these companies, man, keep trying to walk this fine line. They want to have all the rights and benefits of a media company, but they don't want any of the regulation or restrictions that comes with that. They want
their image in every household. Yeah. They want every member of the household to use the product, but they don't want to have to cater to. They might need to do certain things for
security reasons, for whatever reasons,
or mental health reasons, or whatever. Yeah. But when you're doing that much dealing, you have to kind of be regulated for the benefit of everybody.
I mean, I don't know about this whole Elizabeth Warren thing or whatever. Okay, however, what he's in sort of indicating is that he'll go to war if the federal government tries to do anything to regulate him or any of these social media.
Most
giants.
Of these guys do. Yeah. They try to prevent it from happening, man. I mean, I get their side of it and stuff. I know why they would. I think but it's.
Well, nothing unites people like a common foe, right?
That's true.
And when you're talking
the government needs uniting. So.
Yeah, and this is one of them issues that I think sort of jumps across sort of a party divide, sort of left-right paradigm.
Well, and we've talked about the possibility of new psychological disorders, social psychological disorders cropping up because of Facebook
and social media.
Aside from the obvious shit where where someone will kill themselves because they're being bad-mouthed on Facebook and it's a social thing.
Cyberbullying is a condition.
Aside from that,
yeah,
I think there may be other psychological issues that it may be causing.
Sure. That's the result of cyberbullying.
Yeah,
or the
this leads to that, or that leads to this, or or either way, but.
So here we are talking about the social media, which is a medium with which this gets distributed out there.
We're certainly using every method we can to do that. Yeah, man. It's just, So we've got room to grow.
We need a hypocrite button.
We got room to grow, man. We got room to grow. I mean, it's these guys at the top that's household names and writing books and getting millions of dollars. Those guys are the ones that maybe went too far.
That's it. It's only the people that are rich and powerful
I'll
that are wrong.
I'll be dead from that,
Rich. All right, we'll move on from this, Devlin, if you don't mind. We talk about Mark a lot.
Funnily enough, I've been asked some of these questions lately.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, philosophical issues and things about the show and things.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. And by people other than you and me. So I thought this was hilarious. This is from Engadget. The U.S. military will no longer use floppy disks to coordinate nuclear launches.
Man, the last of the 8-inch floppy disks.
He's like, I got a question.
I have a question, and also I've already seen the headline for this article a couple days ago.
Okay.
But when were we ever still using floppy disks for anything?
This is not just, dude, this is not like they were using this is 5.5s. Or what is that? 5
or 8-inch.
Or 8-inch. This is the older than old.
I thought we moved on from that.
We did,
but the government did not.
But the nuclear weapons system that they use to protect us,
destroy people.
The equipment never got upgraded because I think it was just a cost thing.
Oh.
Finally, it looks like they're finally upgrading it now so that the software runs on something other than
it's not like
disks.
those ICBMs are like, spare no expense. They're like, oh, no, don't change that shit. It was working in the 70s.
Well, it made it kind of weirdly hack-proof in that way. Yeah. I mean, who the hell has the drive?
Nobody's going to hack that.
You can't.
Most people wouldn't have even imagined it was still there.
Oh, you stole the discs? We're screwed, man. Why? You can't get these drives anymore.
Right.
Have to find some old, weird nerd.
What do you mean you spilled your pop on it? Now we can't fire any missiles at China.
Oh shit!
Clean that.
Stay away from that pop up. You got to keep all the magnets and everything away, just in case. As we alarmingly learned in 2014, the U.S. military has been using 8-inch floppy disks in an antiquated 70s computer. To receive nuclear launch orders from the president. Now the U.S. Strategic Command has announced that it has replaced the drives with a, quote, highly secure solid-state digital storage solution.
How did he send them?
I don't know. Yeah, I thought that was all in that briefcase they call the football or some shit like that he's always handcuffed to some Secret Service agent. Hey, Bob, launch the shit. Who we shooting, boss? The storage is used in an ancient system called the Strategic Automated Command and Control System, or SACS. It's used.
I love those 70s acronyms.
Yeah, right. It's used by U.S. nuclear forces to send emergency action messages from command centers to field forces, and is unhackable precisely because it was created long before the internet existed. You can't hack something that doesn't have an IP address. It's a very unique system, and it's old, and it's very good, Rozzy said.
Very unique.
It's very good. Then why are you replacing it? The Defense Department planned to replace the old IBM Series 1 SACS computer and updated storage solutions, port expansion processors, portable terminals, and desktop terminals by the end of fiscal year 2017. It said in 2016. The Air Force hasn't revealed whether that project is complete, but did say that it has enhanced the speed and connectivity of SACS.
I wonder how risky that was, making that changeover.
I know on I've done some DARPA stuff engineering wise, and we did it what they call COTS, which is commercial off the shelf. And so there was a weapon system that, it was a vehicle that I helped work on, one of the things it could do was mount a weapon system. But So we did it with like all commercial grade, industrial grade devices. But ultimately, when the military ultimately decided to pick the project up, all of that shit had to come out. It's all like custom circuit board designed things. And the reason for that is to make it really hard for someone with readily available equipment to hack into it.
Yeah. And so there's no manual somewhere in a library on a shelf that you can get.
Right.
I was signaling. Do you want me to go to the next article?
I thought he was raising his hand like, I want to talk about weapons. Yeah, go ahead, man. We got to get our hand signal game down, Mr. Devlin. We have no reason to believe 5G is safe.
I have no reason to
something
believe
to add there, Mr. Devlin?
I was just groaning back here. Oh no.
I am going to say this. You're going to have to zoom into that shit, man, because there's no way I'm going to be able to read that little text.
You're going to get Parkinson's disease.
It says the technology is coming. Right. The technology is coming, but contrary to what some people say, there could be health risks. Scroll. It's from Scientific American. He keeps me on track.
That's
see,
good.
He's berating me with the mouse movements, but you can't see that on the camera. But I look over and I see this mouse going. He's like, read the title. Slave driver. He's just nonstop, man.
Good man.
The telecommunications industry and their experts have accused many scientists who have researched the effects of cell phone radiation of, quote, fear-mongering over the advent of wireless technologies, 5G. Since much of our research is publicly funded, we believe it is our ethical responsibility to inform the public about what the peer-reviewed scientific literature tells us about the health risks from wireless radiation. Death Network.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. The chairman of the Federal Communications Commission recently announced through a press release that the commission will soon reaffirm the radio frequency radiation exposure limits that the FCC adopted in the late 1990s. These limits are based upon a behavioral change in rats exposed to microwave radiation and were designed to protect us from the short-term heating risks due to RFR exposure. Radio frequency range. Yet since the FCC adopted these limits based largely on research from the 1980s, the preponderance of peer-reviewed research, more than 500 studies, have found harmful biological or health effects from exposure to RFR at intensities too low to cause significant heating. So you can't feel it, but it's still screwing shit up. Right? That's kind of what they're saying.
Yeah.
Citing this large body of research, more than 2,400 scientists who have published peer-reviewed research on the biological and health effects of non-ionizing electromagnetic fields signed the International EMF Scientists' Appeal, which calls for stronger exposure limits. The appeal makes the following assertions. Quote, scroll. Numerous recent scientific publications have shown that EMF affects living organisms at levels well below most international and national guidelines.
That's good.
Effects include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, increase in harmful free radicals, genetic damages, structural and functional changes of the reproductive system, learning and memory deficits, neurological disorders, and negative impacts on general well-being in humans. Damage goes well beyond the human race as there is growing evidence of harmful effects to both plant and animal life.
Well, anything that produces free radicals would harm any kind of cellular life.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's
I think my limited biological knowledge.
Free radicals occur when you change food into energy or oxygen into energy, and it produces a byproduct called a free radical, and it's like a bullet. When this is converted to energy, part of that shoots out through whatever cell it's at. So, like, this happens mostly in your lungs and in your head, which is why the older you get, you end up getting dementia because over a lifetime,
it's like popping little holes all through your.
Yeah, and you can see it on slides. Like the brain of an older person looks really riddled with dark areas, and and you can't escape it because it happens breathing and eating. Yeah. And there's actually people who limit as much as possible how much they eat because of
that.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And of course people take
so the nourishment you're taking in is literally killing you over time.
Yeah, I mean if you
slowly, but
Yeah, you can kill bacteria with pure oxygen.
Yeah.
It's really volatile, of course, explodes,
dangerous,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean, man. It's like it's a huge fuel, and you have to fuel yourself on it and stuff. That's how much fuel your brain takes and stuff, and it's hard on the organics.
We used to. That's none of it.
Okay.
The FCC's RFR exposure limits regulate the intensity of exposure, taking into account the frequency of the carrier waves, but ignore the signaling properties of the RFR, along with the patterning of and duration of exposures. Certain characteristics of the signal, like pulsing or polarizing, increase the biological and health impacts of the exposure. New exposure limits are needed, which account for these differential effects. Moreover, these limits should be based on a biological effect, not a change in the laboratory rat's behavior.
I certainly agree with that.
Don't you think that would make sense?
Yeah.
The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified RFRs as possibly carcinogenic to humans in 2011. Last year, a $30 million study conducted by the U.S. National Toxicology Program found, quote, clear evidence that 2 years of exposure to cell phone RFR increased cancer in male rats and damaged DNA in rats and mice of both sexes. The Ramazzini Institute in Italy replicated the key finding of the NTP using a different carrier frequency and much weaker exposure to cell phone radiation over the life of the rats.
Well, I mean, it's fallen from the sky anyway. Why not have it conveniently be abused to you?
Well, yeah, but
I mean, that's how
I can't believe more is good. I mean, we're already getting killed. Whatever.
Ratio speaking, danger to use.
Yeah,
the use as far outweighs the danger, because I mean, it's not that much different than cosmic rays and stuff, which are the things that can sometimes cause mutations to occur anyway. I mean, cancer's been with us a really long time.
Yeah, right.
It's not through technology.
It's crazy how much of it turns out to be viral. Like, I was like, huh? I remember when that first started happening, and now it's like they got all, like, it's just nuts. I think we beat this to death, don't you? 5G might be bad. There's not enough clear evidence yet to actually be flipping this. They're going to. I mean, it's coming. They've already built a lot of the infrastructure.
I think, don't some people have it in their homes now?
Some countries or cities or something, I don't know, have already adopted it. Yeah. I think.
I don't know. I thought that people had it in their house, or could get it in their house or something, but maybe not.
Like for your wireless routers and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure our resident engineer back there could Google that for us. Can you buy anything yet that's 5G? Like, is it already out?
I don't know. I thought it was, but I don't keep track of that very often, or haven't, at least here for a while.
Yeah.
Because where I live, I get Wi-Fi for free, so I haven't really checked into it.
5G. Now in parts. Yeah, it looks like it's already out there. I just seen something that said something like now in parts of select cities. Yeah, it's out there then.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. Because the meteorologists were complaining about it.
That's from like Verizon Wireless's website. So, all right, yeah, it's coming. It's going to happen.
You can get cancer through your phone or conveniently packaged.
Oh, dude, I do far more things that are going to kill me way before 5G does, or free radicals in my brain.
Flying above a certain atmosphere.
I fly all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're far more exposed to radiation.
I'm always in production facilities. I'm always exposed to chemicals, stuff like that. It's, pretty regularly. That's why I gave up on that a long time ago.
That looks like the top of Elon Musk's head.
It is. This comes from Benzinga. I've never even heard of this website before, but a report says that NASA paid $5 million for SpaceX employee review after Musk's on-camera toke.
They paid him to do what kind of review?
Taxpayers paid $5 million to have a drug, I'm guessing from the headline, sort of drug review of SpaceX. Probably for the contracts that they're working with SpaceX on.
Yeah. Because
he smoked pot on camera on the Joe Rogan Experience. It ordered a mandatory review of SpaceX's professional community after the incident, according to Politico. SpaceX is a U.S. military contractor with security clearances, and the adult use cannabis consumption is still illegal under federal law.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, the military is not really known for that anyway, I don't think, right? I mean, I've not been
known for what?
potheads?
Drug use and stuff?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, especially like in the 70s when people were going back and forth. In the Navy, people would go to Vietnam and go into these Asian countries and buy all kinds of stuff and then just bring it back on the boat.
Still today?
It's not. No, I wouldn't say they're as easy because they took the military back under the Reagan administration, I think, took a zero tolerance policy on drug use. However, not that I participated, but I'm under the understanding that there are certain illicit drugs that you can take that do not show up in your analysis tests and things. And that those particular types of drugs, which I won't name, when I was in, were used,
for alertness?
No, they were I can talk about that too. Eating mini thins until you can feel your hair grow to stay awake long enough to not die on the flight deck. But, but yeah, these people said that they used it. I'm not saying that I witnessed this, someone using illicit drugs in the military myself. However, I do know people that when I was enlisted with them were claiming that they were. I was also. I've probably seen a guy got kicked out in boot camp because he tested positive. I seen a guy he got kicked out. A couple guys got kicked out in boot camp. A guy got kicked out between boot camp and school. And then a couple guys from my squadron got kicked out, all for marijuana use. Because you never know when it's coming, man. You just get there's an announcement. And it says everybody they got like a 10-sided die, they roll it, and whatever number comes up, if your social security number ends in that number, you're peeing in a cup. That's how, and like every month they do it. So that's and they catch people. But we were, back in the 90s, they had these little red pills you could buy at any truck stop called mini thins. It was like a diet drug, but it was ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. It was ephedra. And we'd go on the boat. We would take like bottles of that shit with us, and we would just pop them like candy, like Tic Tacs, and because you could get, it would super amp you up. Yeah, you can still buy them at Amazon. Yeah, a little red bottle. See? Yeah. We ate those things like candy, man. And I think it probably messed me up. Like you would take them literally. We'd take them 6 at a time. You're supposed to take like no more than 4 a day. It was awful. I mean, I'm telling you, it was terrible for me. It's not, they're not. I don't think those though have the same shit in it anymore though. I think the new versions you get doesn't have the ephedrine in it. But the back in the day, you could buy them. Now, I mean, people have OD'd on these. It's killed kids on like gaming marathons, and they're eating them.
Wow, jeez.
Yeah, it's not good stuff. But anyway, there's a interesting diversion down memory lane. We can move on from that. What were we talking? NASA. Let's see.
NASA. Military doesn't trust potheads.
Blah blah blah. So I think that's just the article. They spent $5 million making everybody that works for SpaceX pee in a cup. Now, let's say this. Let's say that they were all fucking baking up like regularly, okay? They shot a car around fucking Mars.
Right.
Maybe the answer isn't that SpaceX shouldn't be smoking pot. Maybe the answer is NASA should.
Yeah, maybe.
So these fucking guys get out of their boxes a little bit. Because when I look at the track record, when was the last time NASA launched a rocket that landed itself on a boat?
Right.
That has never happened, right? So
no, that was something to watch. If you haven't seen that shit, go and watch.
Oh my God,
the rockets land the Elon Musk.
Oh, the best,
and his team SpaceX built.
There was they made a compilation video that's awesome of the rockets that didn't make it. Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
I think it's called How to Land a Rocket.
Yeah.
It's actually the name of the video.
Or they tried until they perfected it, yeah.
Yeah, but all the ones that crashed and stuff and didn't quite work out. And it's like, ran out of hydraulic fluid, like not enough fuel.
It's like watching something go backwards forward.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's hilarious.
It's something you can show.
I don't know if we can watch this or not. It's
put it in the
it's
link,
from The Verge, so I doubt it, Devlin. Yeah, that's the one that they landed successfully. there's a compilation video of all the ones that didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And when that heavy, like I don't think they finally recouped into that, like the heavy booster. Here, the first one didn't make it back. The side boosters did, but the big booster didn't make it. It was a tuna seeker, as we called them in the Navy. You fire a rocket like a missile, it doesn't track, it just goes like straight down. They call them tuna seekers. All right, what's our next article there, big guy? Paris Zoo unveils bizarre blob that can learn with no brain. There were so many reasons why I wanted to put this article on the show, because first of all, apparently a blob with no brain can learn. So humans got no excuse anymore, right?
This better be a case of the little words taken away from this.
The Paris Zoological Park is unveiling a bizarre blob organism. This comes from Futurism this weekend that can learn without a brain, digest food without a mouth or stomach, and rapidly heal itself after being chopped in half.
Sounds like a fungus.
Isn't this how horror movies start? I've seen the script, right?
Yeah, sounds like some kind of fungus blob. Or the stuff.
Quote, the blob is a living being which belongs to one of nature's mysteries, Bruno David, the director of the Paris Museum of Natural History, told Reuters. Quote, it surprises us because it has no brain but is able to learn. And if you merge two blobs, the one that has learned will transmit its knowledge to the other. That's very Borg-like.
Yeah.
Like collective... Devlin's back here, kill it with fire.
It's like some kind of mold or something, like fungus.
So, quote, we know for sure it's not a plant, but we don't really know if it's an animal or a fungus, David told Reuters. It behaves very surprisingly for something that looks like a mushroom. It has the behavior of an animal and is able to learn. This is like a weird hybrid species.
You know, what they really need to do is genetically alter it or hit it with some radiation.
5G.
Yeah, 5G radiation.
Let's hit it with some 5G and see what happens.
Yeah, and genetically alter it with CRISPR. They can do that.
And make it more resilient to something, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, just like all those other things that we've talked about. The monkeys, they turned on the human intelligence stuff on and sent to the wild and all that other stuff. It was like 5 or 6 things. They've done
very recently.
Crazy. Yeah,
very recently. So, the plastic-eating bacteria was one, right? That wasn't CRISPR, though, was it? That was some other process.
No. There was those monkeys that they turned on the human intelligent
and then let them
go. There was the mosquitoes that they genetically altered and let them go, and there's still the court's out on that as to whether or not that was a good or a bad thing. There is
some conjecture, yeah.
Yeah, there was the bacteria that they genetically modified to eat plastic. That was natural. They found it naturally, genetically altered it, accidentally made it better at eating plastic.
Yeah.
The guy in China that CRISPR'd the twins to keep them from getting HIV.
Right. That's recent.
Yeah. Yep. Then there was another one that they were talking about in Russia. I don't know if they actually did it, but this guy wanted to do something. But it was 5 things that they were just. Let's see what happens.
That we know of.
Right, that we know of.
That's the killer, right? This is 5 things that we know of. And if I remember right, a couple of the things that we know of wasn't supposed to be released publicly.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately, it was leaked, and that's how we found out about it. So that tells me that this is probably happening, a lot more than we think it is.
Yeah, just like they make chemical warheads in Bio-Level 4 underground labs. That was going on for a long time before anybody really knew about it.
Yeah. This is creepy shit, man. All right, what do we got here? I thought this was a pretty cool article given. It's alarming. If you ever get the chance, and the data is sort of rapidly changing, but look at how many scientists are in the elected offices of any kind of federally elected office, like a senator or a congressman or anything. When you look at how many scientists are in these positions, it starts to make all kinds of other shit make sense, right? So I thought it was kind of cool when I seen this, because recently, and I mean in the last 4 years, that there's been an insurgence of people with scientific backgrounds and actual scientists being elected to Congress and to federally elected positions. So the So this article I thought was kind of significant for that, but it says scientific integrity bill advances in U.S. House with bipartisan support.
From?
I don't know. Scientific magazine. Science Mag. Yep, Science Magazine. Despite their failure to attract a single Republican co-sponsor, Democrats in Congress have long insisted that a bill to strengthen scientific integrity across U.S. government agencies takes a bipartisan stance and is not a veiled attack on the Trump administration's attitude toward science. That claim of bipartisanship took a big step forward today as the Science Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives tweaked the bill to satisfy key Republicans on the panel. By a vote of 25-6, the committee voted to advance the legislation called H.R. 1709, which would require some 24 federal agencies to develop and follow clear principles designed to protect scientists and the research they carry out from political influence.
Well, it's disturbing that 6 people voted against it.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder who they were.
This is kind of a no-brainer. Several agencies have adopted such policies following a 2010 executive order from the then President Barack Obama. The bill, if it enacted, would transform that presidential directive into a law that would also require training on the topic and direct agencies on how to monitor any alleged violations. Nobody opposes the idea of allowing federal scientists to pursue important research, publish the results, and discuss their findings at scientific conferences and with the public, but politics enter into the equation when defending scientific integrity is seen as interfering with the legitimate right of any administration to carry out its policies. The Democrats initially did little to assuage Republicans' fears that the legislation was a response to action taken to curtail the use and dissemination of research by President Donald Trump and his appointees at several agencies, notably the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of the Interior. Quote, science is under threat in the U.S. public policy, and science-based policy decisions are distorted by political interests. Yeah, how are cigarettes still legal at this point, right? Money. That's how. Somebody getting paid. Did you ever see that when there was a politician walking around on the floor of Congress handing out the checks from the tobacco lobby?
No.
It's like...
I've seen the movie The Insider, though, with Russell Crowe.
Yeah, it's not surprising, huh? How much you see that? Yeah, and that was funny because that happened not too long ago. I mean, this was less than 20 years ago that kind of shit was still going on.
Wow. Well, people. Yeah, man. I mean,
but the point, that wasn't, I don't want to go down a rat hole of politics, but the fact that there are so few scientists and so, like, science takes a back seat and critical data takes a back seat and it always has, let's be honest, to, political discourse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because the only science that they're going to embrace in some cases readily is military science.
Well, I love that. We love that shit, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And we spend a lot of money on that stuff, man. But anyway, yeah, I just think it's kind of interesting that there's so few of them. There have been so few people that are actually scientists and things in elected office. And that's kind of, I think, shame on us, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I guess I can get why somebody, because when you meet scientists, there's a type.
Well, yeah, like we talked about with Joe Rogan coming on to Penn's show.
Yeah, Penn Jillette's show. Yep.
Yeah, like that situation. They're
not an astrophysicist come in.
Yeah, sociable. You know what I mean?
I'm not familiar with what happened. What exactly were they talking about? Like, basically, what were they talking about?
Oh, they're talking about the moon landing being the hoax.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So Joe Rogan for a long time was a big moon landing denier. Is that what it's called? He didn't.
Well, yeah, conspiracy.
He thought the moon landings were fake.
Yeah,
he was a conspiracy theorist that way.
Yeah.
And so Penn Jillette, who
that wasn't.
Well, he does not believe this at all. Believes that they actually did go to the moon and all this. Had an astrophysicist that he knew come on to his radio show. I think it was his radio show. I don't think it was his podcast, to debate the moon landing with Joe Rogan. And he told the guy, he was like, "Now listen, this guy's a comedian. He's
an actor, comedian, well-spoken.
He's not stupid. He doesn't, and the scientist just didn't take him seriously and pretty much got his head handed to him through the entire interview by Joe Rogan because he wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared for the medium more than anything else. And it wasn't like Joe beat him up, like from what Penn Jillette was saying. It wasn't like he actually was rude to him or anyway. He was complete gentleman, totally polite and very, just respectful. But he just turned this guy in circles because he wasn't prepared to deal with the way that, like Joe Rogan talks to audiences. He gets heckled by audience members. He can dance. He can defend himself in these situations.
He can baffle them with bullshit if
he has to. Yeah, absolutely.
The person who is a conspiracy theorist, they have the benefit of really having the energy on their side. They really have been into whatever it is they're trying to disprove it.
Yeah, it's that aha. I know something.
Right, I can prove it. Right, where everybody else is just really calm in the knowledge that I believe that this happened. So I don't really actually have a book behind me that I can pull out and refute what you're saying because I take it for granted that we landed on the moon, right? Whereas the conspiracy person probably does have that in their pocket, right? Mm-hmm. Because they've been working on it. And that's the thing, man. They always have that advantage unless you truly do come prepared to refute something that you think is common knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's not when someone becomes obsessed with a topic like that, they can go down those rabbit holes, and if you don't, then you're ill prepared to refute it in any way.
You're prepared to explain science to somebody, not refute the basic principles of science to somebody.
There's no proportion of how long you research a topic to whether it's valid or not. Like there's no like I've looked up thousands of articles. Yep, thousands of articles can be completely full of shit in a viral world of the internet. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're welcome. That's how this works.
It's all dependent on what you're typing into that search engine anyway.
Yeah. All right, what we got coming up here next, Mr. Devlin? Ow. Wow. Oh wow. This is the last article. I thought this was just weird. This comes from what? New Scientist? Yeah. Early mouse fetuses generated without sperm or eggs for the first time.
Yeah, cool. He grew them like a clone. Then.
Yeah, so all that DNA we're sending into 23andMe.
It's paid off. We can make mice. We needed mice.
We can make they could clone me. They could clone you. Well, not me. I'd never sent anything in, but they could clone you.
Yeah, man.
There could be 2 Eric Smiths in this world.
What a disruptive force that would be.
Why is that?
Well, because.
Wait, because what? Now you've interested
me. Because I've caused enough disturbance in the force as it is.
I was just going to say that there is already 2 of you.
Oh, yeah, I got mini-me, right?
What happened?
But he's not a clone.
Who? Where?
No,
what?
I'm just an AI.
He's just an AI.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not saying I cloned him. I'm not saying I didn't. I'm just saying.
We can get all these things at it together.
That person's going to regret making that comment on YouTube. Like, why did I say anything about him being mysterious? I'm like, yeah, give us something to talk about. Who was that? Do you remember who that was?
We have so many fans.
I don't remember who it was.
Hold on. I can actually quickly see that.
Because we keep referencing a comment from a YouTube video is what we're doing.
I haven't seen it, so I didn't.
Let me pull it up for you.
While he's looking this up, for the first time, artificial embryos made without sperm or eggs have started to form live fetuses after being implanted in female mice.
Just like a sentence that says, hey, man, for the first time, breakfast made without bacon or eggs. Wait, what?
Huh? The artificial mouse embryos were made from scratch using special stem cells called extended pluripotent stem cells. These have the ability to generate all 3 cell types found in early embryos. I wonder if these stem cells can repair the holes that free radicals blow in your brain.
That'd be cool.
Maybe we can live forever. Who knows?
There's other issues, too.
I'm waiting to see if he found it or not. He's scrolling through the volumes of fan interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not only read the comments that you've told me about, to be honest.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually. I mean, there used to ever be any comments there.
Right, so, for the longest time, we didn't have any interaction.
Yeah, it's like still new. Like, oh, that's right.
What trips me out now is when we don't, Like I'm traveling for work. We don't do a podcast for a couple of days, and then people are like messaging, going, "Everything okay?" And you're not on the show for 2 shows because you had family stuff, and people were like, "Where's Eric?" My chopped liver. So this is from PL. I don't know who that is. PL, just 2 letters. The mystery man Devlin, kind of like Charlie and his angels. Devlin is the mystery man. Is he a man or AI? Either way, I find myself waiting to hear his answer at the beginning of the show. Let the mystery remain. So we haven't figured that out yet. Pretty good stuff. Devlin's got fans.
Right on.
Just based on his Charlie's Angel voice back there.
That's great.
Sure.
So we're the angels? Could you imagine us in swimsuits?
No.
Bad memories right there, Bubba.
Way too much hair for that.
There's
Go to
therapy. That's right. There's therapy involved in that. The artifact, I already said that. Jun Woo at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center and his colleagues coaxed the stem cells to turn into the 3 embryo cell types and to self-assemble into embryo-like structures by soaking them in nutrients and growth stimulants. Drink up, little fellas. Quote, they essentially did the job on their own. You could see the cells that would become the placental tissue moving to the outside, while others that would form the fetus moved to the inside, he says. You guys are so good. You're doing good.
Good job.
Good job. Go team. The team then transferred the artificial embryos to the uteruses of female mice where 7% successfully implanted.
So it's like the mouse is just like,
what happened?
No.
That's a virgin birth.
So they have their own creation.
Shit. We got to talk about that for a second. Wait, that's a virgin birth.
Mouse Jesus.
It's Mouse Jesus. All
they
hail
have
Mouse
their own
Jesus.
religion.
Right?
Yeah. The mice
actually.
I think there's significantly more miracles that need to happen after that.
Well, there's got to be
technically be Mouse Jesus, but
yeah, it's got to be like a god involved somewhere, right? Is it the scientist?
There was a joke that I had made and drew about how people evolved from fish, so maybe Jesus was actually a fish. So I drew fish Jesus as a joke.
Were there any illicit substances involved?
Right.
In
I'm just keep thinking rainbow trout Jesus.
How do you get to fish Jesus? Right,
Walking
on
biology
water,
class. It was in biology.
Fish are men. It was in biology class.
It was in biology class.
I get it now. Absolutely.
I was thinking that perhaps there could be a show where scientists was able to take blood off of the Shroud of Turin and reanimate it and then clone Jesus and make an army of Jesuses that they would teach kung fu to. And
Kung Fu Jesus?
Yeah, because they could heal themselves, and they would be a clone army that could heal themselves, and they would go and like spread Catholicism in a militaristic way, like in the old days.
or
the Knights Templars,
Yeah.
just kind of ride in and Jesus everybody up. Or else.
You need some of that old time religion. Let's see here. The experiment is the first time artificial embryos have started to develop in a fetal tissue in a uterus. Other groups have made artificial mouse embryos from stem cells, but they haven't successfully implanted or have only been able to form placental cells, but not the other cell types once implanted. The challenge will now be to fine-tune the artificial mouse embryos so they can develop into perfectly formed fetuses, says Wu. All right, so you need stem cells from a living host to start this process, not just DNA, right? This is not that step yet. This is not taking your spit and turning it into a copy of you or anything like that.
No, nothing like that, I don't think.
No.
That technology is coming, though.
But the fine-tuning, the fine-tuning.
Fine genetic tuning.
All right, man, let's wrap that up there. Any guys got anything else?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Well, let me get into the listening position here. Okay.
So way back,
I got to show off the 10th planet Newark.
Oh yeah.
I actually probably can't see it because of the mic, but I got to show off my T-shirt. Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead. I'm prepared.
Way back in the day, when the internet was young and bulletin boards were a big deal.
Yeah.
There was a role-playing game company that was ran by a guy named Steve Jackson.
Okay.
And they had a role-playing game called Cyberpunk, I believe.
Okay.
something very much like that.
Sounds like a game I played.
Something like, yeah, it's one of those type of games, some kind of a cyberpunkish game, if not called that. And they had recently been connected to one of these new bulletin boards, and they were posting about it, and the FBI was watching and thought that what they were talking about
was real.
And rated them.
Who was on our show? It was an author we had on our show that actually told us about that.
Yeah, I remember bringing that up to him. Yeah,
and he was like, "Yeah, we got rated because."
Well, shit, I ain't got much then, do I?
No, it's just
brought that up.
it was one of our guests, one of our early guests was actually telling.
Yeah,
was telling us about
Michael
that.
Dobson. I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
Either him or Steve Sullivan, but I think it was Michael Dobson.
That's crazy, right? They thought that they were actually had these weapons and all this stuff that they were talking
and
about,
hacking ability.
And everybody freaked out and went and investigated. No, it's a game, man. It's like we roll dice and people play with pencils and paper. No computers.
It's confusing, man. I was running a D&D game, and I had probably 8 people there, right? My best friend, he said his son was getting into it, and he had a bunch of friends, and they wanted to learn how to play.
Okay.
So, okay, well, have them come over. We'll play a few games, and you guys can check it out. So in our 3rd or 4th game, we get a knock on the door. It's the police. And they're like, oh, we got to report a bunch of cars out here in the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m.
Was this like out in the suburbs or out in the country?
No, it's out on Spring Street, which is like on the edge of town.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're still in town. Still in a fairly dense town with neighbors that were like 25 feet away, right? And across the street.
Okay.
And
so somebody got nosy
and thought, but the weird thing was,
God damn it, they look like they're having fun over there. I better call the police.
They thought something nefarious was going on.
Right.
At all these cars at my house at 2 a.m. could not be anything not nefarious, according to this mind, right?
Right.
So it was some kind of weird paranoia, something happening in their neighborhood that had never happened.
Right.
Before.
Something's different.
Right.
We don't like different. Different is scary.
The cop rolls up and he's like, man, he says, when I first pulled up, he's like, I thought you guys were having a party with all the cars and everything.
Right,
said,
but there was no noise.
Yeah, he's like, I rolled my window down, didn't hear anything. He's like, man, if that's a party, it's the quietest party ever, Right. And so he was curious too, man. Like, people were just curious what's happening. So they came and knocked on the door, and when they found out what was going on, they just wanted to leave.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, once they figured out, they took a look inside, they just stick their heads inside, they were getting back in their cars. That's all they needed to see.
They wanted nothing to do with it.
No, and I kept trying to get them to come in. I'm like, come in and check it out, man.
We got nothing to hide from what we're doing.
Come on in. Nope, they wouldn't come in my house. I couldn't get them to go in my house. They wouldn't go in my house. Like, I had never had a cop not want to just come in or something, and like they wouldn't even come in.
It's like water on the Wicked Witch of the West, man.
Yeah,
so nerdy stuff. Anything nerdy, man, is like it's like a cross to a vampire to police.
He says, you got license on you? I'm like, yeah. I showed him my license out in my yard, and he left. They left.
That was it, huh?
Yeah. The next day, I took a whole armful of my game books, and I went to every neighbor that I could go to and said, hey,
this is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing, man.
And they didn't want nothing to do with it either.
I never had another call.
It never happened again.
No. Well, they were all curious, but once they got a dose of it, they were like, "Nope, good, thanks."
They're good. Yeah, just them crazy kids over there, but they don't make any noise.
Yeah, nerdy,
some weird
adults and
1980s
whatever.
devil worship thing going on.
Yeah. Somebody was talking about that today too. They were posting about the satanic panic on the old Facebook, and brought it up because of Halloween. They said,
"Well, here it comes." The needles in the candy, razor blades in the candy. Nobody is going to give your children free drugs. No one does that. That never happens. Okay, I mean, like, and there's such a small statistical percentage of this kind of stuff that happens, and generally, it's almost always found out that the people did it themselves just for the notoriety. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Enjoy Halloween and enjoy trick or treating and Beggars Night or whatever you call it.
There was a meme I saw where it was like, check your kids' candy. Halloween's dangerous. And it's like a Snickers broken half with like a bite, like a knife, like a full
sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, people get crazy with this shit, man. And you know what? I would have thought after, when people have been on social media for a while, you would think that eventually they would stop sharing this stupid shit. But it's like a seasonal, so much so that there's memes that are about what's about to happen. Like, the one from Lord of the Rings was prepare yourself, pumpkin spice latte memes are coming, like there's memes about what's about to happen.
Yeah.
It's so prevalent that there's just a percentage of people that just like don't take the Facebook quizzes. That's another one. And
unless you just really want to do something silly,
like get your account hijacked and duplicated, and
well, that's pretty silly.
Yeah, well, fun. A
lot of people do post about that I know. Like they'll get hijacked every
happens
so
all the
often.
time, but it almost happens because of them stupid Facebook quizzes and shit. Which is another reason why Mark Zuckerberg needs a kick in the balls, man. Like, why is that shit allowed? Why can't they block that at their level?
The Wild
They're
West.
feeding that shit to us. Why? Because somebody's probably getting paid.
Getting paid, yeah. Absolutely, somebody is.
Yeah, someone's getting paid. So,
do they still have that Mafia game that you're just pressing buttons?
I don't know. I don't think I ever played it.
It was like a browser-based game right before things like the farm browser-based game.
Yeah, farmland and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have an engineer that can look this stuff up. I think he's preparing to do so.
Yeah, maybe. I was just curious. I played it for a while, but it was like one of those first browser-based games. It was like free. You could do like power up and stuff. And
online Mafia game. That's like an article about the actual Mafia.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that it?
That second one.
It's called Mafia Boss.
Yeah, maybe
there it
so.
is.
Yeah.
Sign up now. Give us all your information.
Right.
Play for free.
That's crazy. Huh.
It's still out there, it looks like.
Oh no, pop-ups.
Eek! Go away. Okay. Why didn't our pop-up blocker catch that?
I don't know.
We were at an
level. It's a better mouse.
They're learning.
They figured out how to make a better mouse.
You know how we were talking about Cassie that day that she was talking about the tarot card readings and she got the ad on the way back home?
Yeah.
So I was talking with somebody else and they were talking about beards, just talking about my beard.
Okay.
And
you have a lot of conversations about
not
your
normally,
facial hair?
no.
Okay.
Which is what's weird, right?
Okay.
Like a few minutes later, they got an ad about it, about beards.
Right.
It's like it was a female.
I get it.
I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm just saying, man.
I get it. Was
starting to press upon my ability to be skeptical.
Was this female married or have a significant other?
Yeah, and he was. Yeah.
Does he have facial hair?
He does.
Just saying. Foiled again, my friend. All right, guys, let's wrap it up there. Unless anybody's got anything else, we'll go ahead and pull the pin on this parade and move on. So thanks for listening, everybody. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Give us some like and subscribe. Share us. We'd really appreciate it. And loving all the feedback on YouTube and all the subscribers that are coming on, man. Thanks for everything. We're really glad you guys enjoy what we do.
Remember, we make a great Christmas gift.
That's right. We're going to start selling CD box sets. No, we're not doing any of that. Maybe some T-shirts if we can get Mr. Devlin to design us some. Let us know if you guys would be interested in seeing some of Mr. Devlin's artwork, AI artwork, as it were. Oh. And we're thinking about popping like up a T-shirt channel so you can buy No Shit Cast actual shirts
with, like,
and stuff like that.
And hoodies.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's we can put them out there if people want them. You know, it's not like we have to stock this stuff. So anyway, that's all internal shit. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you all next time. Bye, see you guys.